Hello, we are Group 9. My name is Hope Newton. I'm here with Megan Costi, Sierra Doyle, and Jake Sanchez. Today we are presenting our findings for Project 2 on landfill contaminant migration mitigation. The project objectives are to analyze different remedial alternatives for a contaminated site such as a landfill, utilize groundwater vistas to model each alternative, and determine the best alternative that will mitigate the contaminant migration. On the right is a picture of how the base model was set up. In red is the landfill that we are investigating. Now for the site characteristics of the landfill. The landfill is currently inactive and holds 3 million gallons of liquid waste and 12,000 cubic yards of solid waste. The leachate of the waste is currently contaminating the groundwater below and around the landfill, which is then flowing into a nearby stream. Those living near the landfill and stream have reported multiple cases of illness. The landfill is underlain by a sand and silt aquifer that has a thickness of 140 feet. The model has site uniform values of a hydraulic conductivity of 43 feet per day, a recharge rate of 5 times 10 to the negative 3 feet per day, and a porosity of 0.1.
Alternative A is to leave the landfill conditions as is. Currently, that is not acceptable as leachate is getting into the stream south of the landfill, contaminating the water, and the landfill has caused odor complaints from nearby residents. This alternative has zero cost because nothing is being done. In the next slide, we will see that the groundwater vistas model results are shown on the left with particle paths originating in the landfill. Alternative A is the control alternative for this design because we will compare these results to the other alternative results so that we can reduce leachate. Our next alternative is to implement an impermeable cap on the landfill. This solution is attractive not only for reducing leachate, but also for mitigating odor complaints. The area of the landfill is estimated to be 105 square feet, so the cost is very small because it's a fraction of what typical landfills are. And cost comparisons will be laid out in a comparison later. Alternative B differs from A in the next slide, so that the groundwater vistas model in the landfill has a recharge value of 0 to simulate the impermeable cap's influence on the movement of water. The flow rate to the stream is lower and the particle travel time is longer, which is positive for both cases as it means less leachate is reaching the stream and at a slower rate.
Alternative C differs from Alternative B with the addition of a new concrete slurry wall that will surround the entirety of the landfill. This wall is made to directly slow down the seepage of leachate from the landfill through the soil. And the cost of the slurry wall would add a sizable amount since the concrete cost would be about $90 per cubic yard. And considering the perimeter of the concrete slurry wall was found to be about 70 feet, that came out to an additional $1,110. Next slide, please. So shown here in the groundwater vistas file, this alternative would greatly impact the travel times of the particles. So since flow through the site has been slowed down significantly due to the hydraulic conductivity of the slurry wall, the minimum particle travel time was found to be over 10,000 days as compared to a much faster time in alternatives A and B. So the impact of the slurry wall would also greatly help to reduce the flow rate of water into the stream. Next slide. In alternative D, 3 new vertical drains were introduced to the landfill site, with 1 drain inside the landfill and 2 just outside its perimeter. The drains would be dug and installed in the area just outside the landfill, but still within the confines of the slurry wall in order to prevent or to redirect the leachate out of the ground and into a nearby collection pond. Because the amount of piping material needed can become expensive, this alternative was found to increase the price of the project as well. Next slide. This groundwater vistas file shown here shows how the particles immediately end their travel path when they reach the location of the drain rather than traveling all the way to the stream. which actually directly impacted the minimum and average travel times of the particles. The amount of water that was flowing into the drain also was slightly reduced now, since some of it is flowing into the drains instead of downstream past the wall and into the stream.
Based on typical pumping well data, we installed a 2,000 cubic foot per day well downstream of the landfill to pump out contaminated water. This value is based off of a 10 GPM well, which seemed to be average. The cost is higher than the impermeable cap, and the lifetime is shorter, but something to note is that the pumping well would not be as effective at mitigating odor compared to the cap. It does provide some relief as it is pumping out contaminated water, but it may still be an issue for neighboring communities. On the next slide, we will explore why it is beneficial despite the higher cost and lower lifetime. The pumping well has a longer travel time than the no action and the impermeable cap, and a slower flow rate to the stream. It is outperformed by the slurry wall, but the extent of the differences will be compared later on. The groundwater vistas result figure on the left, you can see where the well is by the higher concentration of particles because there's more water heading into the pumping well than the other pathways. On the next slide, we'll talk about alternative F, which is combining the pumping well and the impermeable cap. This would help mitigate odor complaints and have the effectiveness of the pumping well. The costs are combined in this one, so it is a little higher, and the lifespan varies from 30 to 100 years because of the different components. The groundwater vistas result figure is shown on the left and looks similar to that of alternative E, as they both divert water into the well, which can be seen by the concentrated red particles in the pathway of the well. Alternative F performs better than the pumping well and impermeable cap individually, and an easy to visualize comparison on the next slide will show the extent of its performance.
In this table, we laid out the alternatives with the criteria we thought would be most important to the client, such as having a long particle travel time, a low flow rate, low cost, and a long lifetime. The alternative that best fit those criteria after compiling this comparison table was alternative C. Although alternative D has the best physical qualities, such as particle travel time and low flow rate, the cost is too large for it to be viable. Alternative C has safe flows and handles the smell effectively. After considering all of the alternatives results, our group decided on alternative C as having the best balance of efficiency and cost. It greatly reduces the contamination into the stream, and the smell will also be lessened. The overall cost is estimated to be around $1,110 plus yearly maintenance. The low cost comes with an expected lifespan of 50 to 100 years as long as the cap is well maintained. Thank you.